My name is Zékhers. I will be a moderator for this evening. I lived in Syria for 2.5 years. I studied, I wrote. I eventually got married with a Syrian in the process, which was also a good thing for me. And in 2011 I was expelled from Syria because I wrote some things in Dutch media about the revolution. So I can somehow feel with the Syrian writers who we will meet tonight what it is to be forced to leave your country. But of course, when I go home, I return to my home country. I had my parents, I had my friends, I had a house to go to. For these writers, obviously, there was totally different experience because they cannot return to their homeland, at least not in the foreseeable future, and maybe never. But I can give away that one of them actually has returned to Syria, Saudi Esbek. So we will talk about that later. But before we will meet them, I will tell you something about the situation of freedom of expression in Syria. At least I was asked to do so, and I can be quite short because it was non-existent. My wife told me last week that she studied journalism for a year in Syria, and she told me that she applied for a local newspaper. And the editor-in-chief, she said, you can write about anything you like. Anything, doesn't matter. Except if it's not about politics, religion, and a bunch of other social taboos that she couldn't write about. And this is basically the system where Syrian writers and people in general have to deal with. Like, you could criticize society or the system, like education, bureaucracy, corruption, but you couldn't directly blame the government, or at least not the regime, for it. And especially not the president and his entourage. I can remember one day I walked in the alleyways of the old city with a friend of mine, and we talked about Rami Makhlouf, cousin of the president. And when I mentioned his name, he immediately said, shh, don't talk about Rami Makhlouf, there are spies everywhere. So it was important not to mention these red lines. And religion was another hot iron, especially as far as it concerned the religion of the regime. And the regime was considered to be an Alawi regime. The president Bashar al-Assad is an Alawi, and there always had been tensions between the Alawi community and the Sunni community in Syria. And actually saying like, oh, the government is Alawi and the president is Alawi, it was not to be said. This has led to violent tensions and even some kind of war in the early 80s with the bombardment of Hama, where maybe 20 to 30,000 people have lost their lives. So this is a no-go. Also religion in general. I mean, you're not expected to joke about things that are considered sacred in society. Not only because of fear of structures of power, but maybe just your neighbor or a friend could get upset about it. Even if you're in a bar drinking with your friend,